All right, moving on, continuing with Augie's perspective, and on this one, we are moving into him heading to the nature retreat, and just the beginning of an intro to it, kind of setting the ground for what it looks like, what it's like. It might remind us or make us think of the fifth grade overnight trip that you guys will take next year at the school forest. So let's take a listen at Auggie and his classmates' experience and what they have to look forward to. Here we go. Daybreak. The next day I woke up really early. It was still dark inside my room and even darker outside, though I knew it would be morning soon. I turned over on my side but didn't feel at all sleepy. That's when I saw Daisy sitting near my bed. I mean, I knew it wasn't Daisy, but for a second I saw a shadow that looked just like her. I didn't think it was a dream then, but now, looking back, I know it must have been. It didn't make me sad to see her at all. It just filled me up with nice feelings inside. She was gone after a second, and I couldn't see her again in the darkness. The room slowly started lightening. I reached for my hearing aid headband and put it on, and now the world was really awake. I could hear the garbage trucks clunking down the street and the birds in our backyard. And down the hallway, I heard Mom's alarm beeping. Daisy's ghost made me feel super strong inside, knowing wherever I am, she'd be there with me. I got up out of bed and went to my desk and wrote a little note to Mom. Then I went to the living room where my packed bag was by the door. I opened it and fished inside until I found what I was looking for. I took Babu back to my room and laid him in my bed and taped the little note to Mom on his chest. And then I covered him with my blanket so Mom would find him later. The note read, "Dear Mom, I won't need Babu, but if you miss me, you can cuddle with him yourself. XO, Auggie." Day 1. The bus ride went really fast. I sat by the window and Jack was next to me in the aisle seat. Summer and Maya were in front of us. Everyone was in a good mood, kind of loud, laughing a lot. I noticed right away that Julian wasn't on our bus, even though Henry and Miles were. I figured he must be on the other bus. Then I overheard Miles tell Amos that Julian ditched the grade trip because he thought the whole nature retreat thing was quote-unquote dorky. I totally got pumped because dealing with Julian for 3 days in a row and 2 nights was a major reason that I was nervous about this whole trip. So now without him there, I could really just relax and not worry about anything. We got to the nature reserve at around noon. The first thing we did was put our stuff down in the cabins. There were 3 bunk beds in every room, so me and Jack did rock, paper, scissors for the top bunk, and I won. Woohoo! And the other guys in the room were Reed and Tristan, Pablo, and Nino. After we had lunch in the main cabin, we all went to our 2-hour guided nature hike through the woods. But these were not woods like the kind they have in Central Park. These were real woods, kind of like the ones we have in Wisconsin. These were real woods, giant trees that almost totally blocked out the sunlight, tangles of leaves, fallen tree trunks, howls and chirps, and really loud bird calls. There was a slight fog, too, like a pale blue smoke all around us. So cool. The nature guide pointed everything out to us. The different types of trees we were passing, the insects inside the dead logs on the trail, the signs of deer and bears in the woods, and what types of birds were whistling, and where to look for them. I realized that my Lobot hearing aids actually made me hear better than most people, because I was usually the first person to hear a new bird call. It started to rain as we headed back to camp. I pulled on my rain poncho and pulled the hood up so my hearing aids wouldn't get wet, but my jeans and shoes got soaked by the time we reached our cabins. Everyone got soaked. It was fun, though. We had a wet sock fight in the cabin. Gross. Since it rained for the rest of the day, we spent most of the afternoon goofing off in the rec room. They had a ping pong table and an old-style arcade games like Pac-Man and Missile Command that we played until dinner time. Luckily by then, it had stopped raining, so we got to have a real campfire cookout. The log benches around the campfire were still a little damp, but we threw our jackets over them and hung out by the fire, toasting s'mores and eating the best roasted hot dogs I had ever had. Mom was right about the mosquitoes. There were tons of them, but luckily, I had spritzed myself before I left the cabin, and I wasn't eaten alive like some of the other kids were. I loved hanging out by the campfire after dark. I loved the way bits of the fire dust would float up and disappear into the night air, and how the fire lit up people's faces. I loved the sound of the fire made too, and how the woods were so dark that you couldn't see anything around you, and you'd look up and see 1 billion stars in the sky. The sky doesn't look like that in the North River Heights. I have seen it look like that in Montauk, though, like someone sprinkled salt on a shiny black table. I was so tired when I got back to the cabin that I didn't need to pull out the book out of the book to read. I fell asleep almost as fast as my head hit the pillow. And maybe I dreamed about the stars. I don't know. The fairgrounds. The next day was just as great as the first day. We went horseback riding in the morning, and in the afternoon we rappelled up some ginormous trees with the help of the nature guides. By the time we got back to the cabins for dinner, we were all really tired again. After dinner, they told us we had an hour to rest, and then we were going to take about a 15-minute bus ride to fairgrounds for an outdoor movie night. I hadn't had a chance to write a letter to Mom and Dad and Bea yet, so I wrote one telling them all about the stuff we did that day and the day before. I pictured myself reading it to them out loud when I got back, since there was no way the letter would get home before I did. When we got to the fairgrounds, the sun was starting to set. It was about 7:30. The shadows were really long on the grass, and the clouds were pink and orange. It looked like someone had taken sidewalk chalk and smudged the colors across the sky with their fingers. It's not that I haven't seen sunsets before in the city, because I have. Slivers of sunsets between buildings, but I wasn't used to seeing so much sky in every direction. You have to remember he lives in the middle of New York City, so he doesn't see things that we are used to seeing all the time. Out here in the fairgrounds, I could understand why ancient people used to think the world was flat and the sky was a dome that closed in on top of it. That's what it looked like from the fairgrounds in the middle of this huge open field. Because we were the first school to arrive, we got to run around the field all we wanted until the teachers told us it was time to lay our sleeping bags on the ground and get good viewing seats. We unzipped our bags and laid them down like picnic blankets on the grass in front of a giant movie screen in the middle of the field. Then we went to the row of food trucks parked at the edge of the field to load up on snacks and sodas and stuff like that. There were concession stands there too, like at the farmer's market, selling roasted peanuts and cotton candy. And up a little farther was a short row of carnival-type stalls. The kind where you can win a stuffed animal if you throw a baseball into a basket. Jack and I both tried and failed to win anything. But we heard Amos won a yellow hippo and gave it to Hamina. That was a big gossip that went around. The athlete and the brainiac. From the food trucks, you could see the corn stalks in the back of the movie screen. They covered about a third of the entire field. The rest of the field was completely surrounded by woods. As the sun sank lower in the sky, the tall trees at the entrance to the woods looked dark blue. By the time the other school buses pulled into the parking lots, we were back in our spots in the sleeping bags, right smack in the front of the screen. The best seats in the whole field. Everyone was passing around snacks and having a great time. Me and Jack and Summer and Reed and Maya played Pictionary. We could hear the sounds of other schools arriving, the loud laughing and talking of kids coming out of the field on both sides of us, but we couldn't really see them. Though the sky was still light, the sun had gone down completely and everything on the ground had turned deep purple. The clouds were shadows now. We had trouble even seeing the Pictionary cards in front of us. Just then, without any announcement, all the lights at the ends of the field went on at once. They were like big, bright stadium lights. I thought of that scene in Close Encounters when the alien ship lands and they're playing that music. Do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. Everyone in the field started applauding and cheering like something great had just happened. We will continue this next time. Thanks for joining.